Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the CSL. My name's Joe Laguitas. I'm joined here today by Fear Dragon, and we have a terrific match for you guys tonight. How are you feeling, buddy?
I'm feeling wonderful, Joe, because we got an awesome final match before the playoffs today. It is going to be the one and only RPI facing off against University of Chicago. And even our first match is going to be a really awesome one.
Yeah, it's going to be Jon Snow versus OMG Banana on a PVZ here in just a moment, guys. But I want to point out, for RPI, I believe this is an incredibly important match. We had those group standings up just a minute ago here. And if they want to make it into the playoffs, they need to win this match, most likely.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit dependent on how their opponents or even, the other people in the league also do that they're competing against right now for that final spot. But it's also worth noting that they are going up against an undefeated team in this playoff, not in the playoff, in this particular group stage. And in fact, they're not just undefeated in this group stage, they're undefeated in the entire season of the CSL, going 11-0, which is going to be a little bit of a daunting task, I think, for RPI.
Yes, but with that said, it is time to get this first match underway. Spawning in the top side of Vani Research Station, it is the Red Zerg player for the University of Chicago, as well as Storm Gaming, Jon Snow.
And his opponent spawning in the bottom side, we got the yellow Protoss player from Team Power Overwhelming of University of Chicago. Give it up. For Sloth Esports' OMG Banana. Of course, he picks yellow since he is a banana.
It's the only logical choice. A little bit of cheeky banter here. OMG Banana asking if he should cheese. I did see...
I would just love if he just started dropping down pylons and walling off Jon Snow for... Oh boy, the drone surround picks off the greedy probe. OMG Banana, not going to be too happy about that. Legitimately, that is actually a pretty big concern because he didn't scout out and see that Jon Snow did not take his in-base natural expansion. He saw the low ground natural, or I should say third expansion, but he didn't realize the gold expansion has been taken for Jon Snow.
Yeah, this is actually potentially going to be devastating here, depending on what OMG Banana chooses to do here. If Jon Snow just goes all in on the aggression, and OMG Banana doesn't manage to pick it up or go for any kind of aggression of his own, this just could be a steamroll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most likely it's also worth noting that Jon Snow is known as the low drone king. He loves putting on crazy amounts of aggression off of a low drone count, and well, he's sitting on 22 workers. He's building up quite a few minerals, and his spawning pool is just finished up. He's going to immediately make a couple of queens, but also make those 6 zerglings. Might drone up a little bit further, but it's very possible that he'll go for a very big speedling attack off of these 3 bases.
Now, one thing to note on Vani Research Station is if Jon Snow wants to try to break through this ramp and he doesn't want to invest into something to bust it down, he's going to need to go for drop overlords. I don't see any kind of evolution chamber on the way or anything like that. So there is a chance that OMG Banana could throw down just a huge wall and maybe try to sit tight on 2 bases here as we see the Zergling count starting to climb.
Joe, how are their APMs both above 350 while typing? Typing does not count towards your APM when you're messaging someone, but they're still both over 500 right now.
Yeah, I think that just goes to show what kind of caliber of players we're dealing with here. You might not have heard of OMG Banana, but he's definitely a very, very high-skilled player. He's been high up in those GM leagues. He's competed and done well at LANs before. So,
I believe he beat the one and only Storm Gaming True, right?
Yes, so he took a map off True. He took a macro game off of True, and that was pretty impressive out of him. It's probably his most notable achievement to date, taking a macro game off True at LAN here. But Jon Snow, better known, but there's definitely a chance for OMG Banana to kill him here today.
Yeah, but here we go. We got the Roach Warren popping on down for Jon Snow. He's making a few more Zerglings, but making a whole lot more workers. So he's not going to be just sitting on 36 or so workers and going for a big speedling all in. Could still eventually stop around 48, which I think is a place where Jon Snow feels more comfortable than most Zergs at in terms of worker counts. But OMG Banana still has no idea about that gold expansion. The Warp Prism may actually end up being his first reveal of that expansion.
Yeah, it's all going to depend on the route that it takes. Jon Snow has now clicked on this Warp Prism with his Lings. He's going to be aware of it, and he's going to move his Lings now into position to defend this gold third. So even if OMG Banana does manage to scout it out, which it looks like he certainly will, he's not going to be able to pile on any kind of aggression immediately out of this Prism.
Yeah, Jon Snow is going to be popping out those Roaches right now as well, and they're going to be actually popping just in time for the big Adept aggression that's going to happen over at the third location of Jon Snow, the low ground natural, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be very important that Jon Snow has all of his units in place, because the big disadvantage of this gold is how far spread apart Jon Snow is going to be on the defense.
Yeah, and Adepts being such a high mobility unit means that OMG Banana may be able to kind of juke around his opponent here, as we already see him starting to do a little bit. Now the defenses of Jon Snow are going to be in place to react. And because OMG Banana was trying to fight with that small army, it actually bought time to defend the economy of Jon Snow, who suffers no losses from that attack.
Yeah, literally 0 workers lost, and only ended up losing 11 Zerglings during that attack. Now, there are still a couple of Adepts inside that Warp Prism, could potentially get some more damage done, but having lost 6 Adepts himself, he's already lost more resources by a large margin than Jon Snow. This attack has been incredibly unsuccessful so far, off the back of a Zerg player who had a gold expansion.
Yeah, and now it looks like these Adepts may be cleaned up as well, as the Warp Prism is forced to get on out of there, and the follow-up Spire is likely going to go unscouted by OMG Banana, and that can be absolutely devastating when you're already in a position where your opponent has a significant worker lead.
Yeah, OMG Banana saying he's pretty tired. I know he was actually talking about that before the game, that he really, I don't know if he didn't get a lot of sleep or what. Did you cancel? Did he cancel something? Did he cancel a warp-in on accident by undoing his warp prism from phase mode?
That's the only thing I can think of. I immediately went to check that that third nexus when he said that. Maybe it's a bit of mind games here. He's not as tired as he seems. He's trying to psych his opponent out. Legitimately, though, I'm not sure exactly what we missed there.
Yeah, neither am I. I don't see too much in the resources lost tab, so we're just going to roll with it and say that OMG Banana is just behind anyways. Warp Prism may eventually make its way over to that low ground expansion and see the Spire, but at that point, it's probably going to be too late. The Spire is already going to be pumping out those Mutalisks and potentially going after that Warp Prism very soon.
Yeah, the first 3 Mutas already on their way here. They are going to be revealed, so in terms of the Mutas getting out undetected, this is probably OMG Banana's best case scenario for detection. We're going to see that Stargate, double Stargate rather, thrown down immediately with some Stalkers to try to buy time. OMG Banana knows that he's going to be on the back foot for this portion of the game.
Yeah, it's also worth noting again that Jon Snow, having gone for the gold expansions do mine out relatively quickly. They mine out a bit faster than normal expansions, and they also have fewer mineral patches. So technically, Jon Snow is not actually that much further ahead in terms of base count, and for worker count, OMG Banana has been doing fantastic. The problem really is about that army count, and if OMG Banana could somehow get out some miracle units, if he had time to get out disruptors, or even just get up to the big air toss, the sky toss carrier death fleet, maybe he'd stand a better chance, but I just don't think he has the time for it right now. He doesn't really have any power units besides, I guess, the sentries and the immortals.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. Jon Snow is looking for blood. He's going to be going for the jugular here as his huge army of Zerglings, Roaches, and Ravagers starts to advance on top of this. OMG Banana needs to find some kind of miracle position here. The immortal barriers are triggered. Ling's getting the wraparound on nearly all of the expensive units in this army. Good job of kiting back so far by OMG Banana, but he's run out of room to maneuver. Ravager shots blasting down these units. Zealots warped in as an emergency, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough. The final pylon overcharges get cleaned up, and it's just the Mothership Core here and a single immortal to try to hold this attack.
Yeah, the double Stargates were trying to pump out some Phoenix to deal with the Mutalisks, but even those just get cleaned up during the midst of that attack. The Roaches and Ravagers are going to absolutely reign rampant in the third expansion. And OMG Banana is going to lose that one final advantage he had, the economy. GG gets called. Jon Snow takes game number 1 for RPI.
Indeed, and a big win for RPI here, bringing them out 1-0 against their opponents. Jon Snow, as far as I see, is not in the lineup for either the 2v2 nor the Archon, so he's going to be available for that ace game. Very, very interesting dynamic here going into this final game of our regular season. Don't go anywhere, guys, because we're going to be right back with that 2v2 match. Or no, sorry, the next 1v1. We will be right back with our next 1v1 match, guys. Don't go anywhere, and of course, a big thank you to our sponsors, Twitch, Band Gaming, and Asus.
All of your wind has gone, and all of the paths you've drawn have sunk to the ocean sand where no one can see. You stand, don't let the dark embrace, cower the dreams you chase under the rust and blood. Don't let yourself give up. And all these steps that we take are leading us far away. And all these years are passing each day. Since then we are far away from where we were. We did what we could. We're light years away from where we stood. The road goes on far from it all.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to the CSL. Coming up next, we have our second 1v1 match. It's going to be once again between the University of Chicago and RPI here. University of Chicago, as we talked about, is undefeated. RPI needs to win this if they want to guarantee their spot in the playoffs here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into that game.
Indeed, and we are going to be starting down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map atop of the teal Terran player. Give it up for Tagged, representing University of Chicago.
And his opponent spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, playing for RPI, it is going to be Real ET.
And just to talk about these players for a moment, something that we did notice is that Real ET currently in Platinum League and Tagged currently in Masters League. This may be a little bit of a mismatch, but you know what? CSL's where miracles can happen, Joe.
Absolutely, and it's TVZ, and most of the Terrans I've talked to says Zerg is super overpowered. So maybe Real ET will allow his race to carry him to the top here. In all seriousness,
Maybe.
no. It's gonna be an uphill battle for Real ET. Maybe he's got something clever or crafty up his sleeve.
I think that is one of the cool things you always have to remember about CSL and having these kind of planned matches like this. We see a very fast roach run coming out, and Tag is eventually going to scout this out, seeing, oh, there's no natural expansion. That's sounding alarm bells. But when you have these kind of matchups, you know what the map you're going to be playing on is. You get to see what the matchup is. You get time to prepare. Now, ooh, pulling all the workers. I actually don't know how much I like that. It may not seem like a big deal, but it does delay mining even for a couple of seconds. And even that can make or break the difference on whether or not you beat your opponent. If you get in right before a siege tank or something finishes up, or right after a siege tank finishes up.
Yeah, and the other thing is it didn't actually deny the vision. The SCV did scout that Roach Warren. But I want to bounce...
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, like, at that point, like, if it's in the mineral line anyways for you to get this around, it's going to have scouted everything out anyways.
Yeah, I do want to bounce back to kind of the best of one thing we were talking about earlier, though. I think it's important to note that it's a best of one, and one of Real ET's teammates is Jon Snow. So there's a very real chance, you know, $8,000 on the line. Real ET says, hey, Jon Snow, I know I'm going to be mismatched against this Terran. What is the best way to kill a Terran that's way better than you? And I mean, I would say this build that Real ET's doing, it's not the most optimal version of it, but it's absolutely the best way to kill a Terran that outclasses you.
Yeah, it most certainly can do a lot of devastating damage. Now, he's getting some of the Roaches and Ravagers out, and they are going to be hitting before that Starport actually gets the tech lab and is able to produce a Banshee. But remember, a Banshee, or a Liberator even, technically, could come out. I'm actually, you know, I wouldn't even have hated the idea of a Liberator that much while also getting up a Siege Tank. I think that actually would have been a potentially game-winning move, but, you know, there is a big timer right now for Real ET.
Yeah, there's going to be, of course, the big SCV pull here getting on top of this barracks. And right now it's going to come down to Real ET's Ravager Micro N positioning. For this moment, there's not a whole lot the Terran could do other than pulling away those SCVs to try to dodge the bile shots. But Real ET is allowing his damaged Roaches up at the front to tank these shots, and that's what he needs to be avoiding right now.
Yeah, and oh, these Ravagers are taking a lot of damage, and they are eventually going to be able to get the bunker, but definitely at a bit of a cost. Now, they're going to start to bust on forward, but the first Banshee is about to pop. And even though supply depots are raised in time, and Real ET can do some more damage over here, it's really just going to be so limited compared to the damage he needs to get done.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. There's going to be this small window before the Banshee can pop, and Real ET needs to prioritize the most important targets here. He's going to knock out that cloak at least. Oh!
Whoa! So for those who don't know, if you have something building with a tech lab, and the tech lab gets sniped, you can finish that particular thing. It does not get canceled. So that actually was a deliberate cancel, I think, from Tag, which is a bit surprising.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not sure. It looks like he's going to clean it up without the Banshee anyways, and being a Masters player, maybe he was able to kind of make that mental calculation and say, you know what? The Banshee is not the most important thing to get out right now, now that that cloak is going to be denied, because perhaps the counter aggression would be a little bit less powerful, knowing that his opponent's going to have queens on the other side of the map. And
that's the thing, Joe. When you go for this kind of crazy Roach Ravager all in, you don't have queens.
Yeah, you're right. As I say that, a queen immediately starts up on the production tab here. And I'm not sure about the rationale behind that, but either way, it looks like Tagged is going to hold. These Reapers are going to be. Oh, if it wasn't for that little bit of miss micro, then Real ET might have been able to catch one of these Reapers, which would have been a nice pickup here. But it does look like he's going to be forced to go home with these now.
Yeah. You know what I'm actually starting to think? It could have been one or two things. One is that he may have meant to click on the tech lab to cancel the researching of Cloak. Because I think it's a big misnomer for a lot of people that if you have an upgrade researching and you don't cancel it when the building gets killed, that you lose 75% of the resources. But that's actually just like a rumor or a myth that I keep hearing around in StarCraft. I'm
I've
pretty
never-
sure you just get back all of the resources.
Yeah, you get back all the resources. But like for a moment,
Yeah.
you terrified me, and I was like, wait, should I have been canceling these upgrades when I'm allowed to back to lose a building?
No, it's a big myth and rumor. So that may have been it. He may have accidentally just misclicked on the starport. But either way, spore coils are coming up, and honestly, I don't really hate real ET situation that badly, all things considered.
Yeah, there are definitely worse positions you could be in after having your Roach all in scouted like that. But he's going to need to very carefully kind of leapfrog around these spore crawlers, making sure that they're constantly covering each other, or this Banshee can just hammer away at his mineral line all day.
Yeah, Queen is going to be moving down to the natural expansion. He's going to have some additional larva injects over there. And there are 2 spore crawlers in the main base, but I don't actually think that these 2 spore crawlers are fully covering that mineral line. So Queen going to have to be that added little bit, but I don't think Cloak ended up being re-researched, so Tagged is not going to opt to invest into that, especially having seen how many spore crawlers there are, and I kind of like that decision.
Yeah, he is still going to poke around with these 2 Banshees. If the Roaches perhaps step away from the spore crawler, the Banshees can make very short work of them. They can continue to poke and prod, or they can just join up later. They do offer a lot of DPS in any kind of early game push that Tagged might be going for.
Oh yeah, there's no chance of a move out anytime from Real ET, and that is the biggest problem right now, is that Real ET, even though his situation isn't that bad right now, it's the fact that he never got up Lair Tech, and he's not going to be able, he just straight up will not be able to take a 3rd for a while because of these Banshees. Because he has to at least get the creep spread going over to that 3rd location so the Queens can defend it, but 2 Banshees can actually start to take out individual Queens that are off on their lonesome.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think is important to point out here is that Real ET has had trouble spending his money already, and he's going to be having a lot more once these Queens start dying due to these Banshees. Once those larva injects start drying up, we already see 2 Queens in the main going down here, and 7 drones now have fallen to this Banshee harass. I think Tagged has a very good chance to make this spiral out of control.
Yeah, he's already getting up stim. He's got quite a few siege tanks in the mix that are going to do fantastic versus that Roach count that Real AT kind of started to build up, but well, Real AT is getting out that lair. We'll see if he can make some magic happen. I mean, I don't know. What would you like to see him go for? What is the kind of Hail Mary play you think of when you think of Zerg?
Not putting 30 drones on one hatchery. His natural is so oversaturated. If that's just the kind of mistake that you make when you're maybe a little bit rattled by the beginning of the game not going your way, but it's actually really critical right now because any of the Hail Marys, something like a 2-base Muta or some kind of crazy Roach Ravager aggression, you need gas, and he's only just now moving his drones back onto gas. He still has 27 drones sitting on his natural expansion. He needs to be redistributing these units and making sure that he's making the most of his limited tools available instead of wasting them, unfortunately.
Yeah, but here comes that big push out from Tagged, and I think it's going to go relatively undetected and completely unscouted, which means that, well, he's not exactly going to be the best spot, I think, to deal with these sea chinks that can now siege up on that little low ground edge and just eke their way forward into range of that hatchery.
Yeah, Real AT was doing a decent job of pre-spreading his units, but I think he might have grabbed them all and tried to reposition. Eats a big tank shot there. He is going to pull back. A mistake that a lot of Zerg players at Real AT's level make is getting too eager to try to engage into the Terran. So I want to give him props for having the patience to hold back, for not trying to engage into an unwinnable fight, and making Tagged come to him.
Yeah, he's trying to morph in some Ravagers. He's got 1 Ravager. I mean, I do think that that is the kind of right way to go about this. Get up enough Ravagers that you can start taking out these sea shanks from afar, but I just don't think he's going to be able to get close enough. The Spore Crawler is soaking up some hits, but here he goes. He feels like he has to go for it, and he's not going to be able to do a whole lot with this. GG gets called. Tag ties up the series 1-1.
Very strong showing out of our Terran from University of Chicago there. Really cool play to see. Nice hold. A good attempt as well by Real ET. That's a very powerful build to bust out. When we come back, guys, we're going to be having our 2v2 match between University of Chicago here and RPI. So don't go anywhere. And, of course, a big thank you to Band Gaming, Asus, and Twitch.
Only $14.99.
Don't miss the call. Download Band. Communication made easy.
All of your wind has gone, and all of the paths you've drawn have sunk to the ocean sand where no one can see. You stand, don't let the dark embrace, cower the dreams you chase under the rust and blood. Don't let yourself give up.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to the CSL. Things are all tied up as we prepare to head into our 2v2 match between RPI and Chicago. Fear Dragon, I'm going to go ahead and ask you, as I almost always do, for a quick prediction of our 2v2 match, just kind of looking at the teams from a bird's eye.
Oh man, it's gonna be pretty hard to call, honestly. I don't know quite as much about these players as I do some of the big powerhouses that you think of, like Jon Snow. But I will say that this is gonna be a very, very important match for University of Chicago. Because, again, if somehow RPI is able to take this game, they guarantee at least bring it into an ace match. And at that point, Jon Snow comes out, and I don't know if University of Chicago has someone to contend with Jon Snow.
I think that's a really good way of looking at the dynamic that's going to be going on here. RPI still has a chance to take the first game off of University of Chicago in this season. But we've spawned into our game, so without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce our players spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, playing for the University of Chicago. It is Jivan. Oh, sorry. Rather playing for RPI, it is T-Fang. And the Red Zerg player, Spaceman. Spacemen.
He represents all spacemen everywhere. But spawning up in the top right-hand corner of the map, we have, representing University of Chicago, give it up for the purple Terran player, Jivan. And his teammate, the purple-ish Protoss player, Pancakes.
Indigo?
Indigo? Look, man, I'm not a color person. Ask me what color blue and green make, and I will tell you I have no freaking idea.
Did you not pass like finger painting in kindergarten?
Dude, there was the Toy Story 2 game, or sorry, the Toy Story 1 game for the N64 that existed, and there was a specific part I could not make it past because you played as Buzz Lightyear and you had to mix colors to get a specific color, and I just gave up. I was renting the game from Blockbuster back in the day, and I just said, I'm done renting this game. I can't make it past this.
God,
this is before I knew about game packs and everything.
Do you remember, like, as a kid, beating an entire video game in a weekend because that was all you had?
What do you mean as a kid?
No, but like renting a game, you're like, I have to sit down
Yeah.
and beat this whole game in this one weekend because then it's going back to Media Wave and then I'm never going to see it again.
Oh, yeah. It does bring back memories, and I've been trying to relive some of those memories. I'm going to be reliving some of those memories this weekend with Nintendo Switch Breath of the Wild, man.
Ooh.
But anyways, we do have a game that's actually starting to ramp up now. We had a little bit of Reaper aggression, actually a lot of Reaper aggression coming out from T-Fang, who's already got 2 Reapers out and is doing a good amount of damage right now on Pancakes, who, well, still has a relatively healthy worker count, but this aggression is just going to continue to ramp up with Banelings being morphed in over here for Spacemen.
Yeah, we're going to have to see if Gvon and Pancakes can come up with a solution to try to hang on here. 2 Hellions at a time being made. That should deal decently with these Zerglings, but they're going to need to find a way to deal with all of these Reapers that are in their base, dancing around everything, targeting down units as they pop out here. And this attack is just hitting so hard out of our University of Chicago team here.
Yeah, Gvon has already lost an absolute metric ton of things, including a supply drop down called Supply Depot, so lost a lot of supply there, but thankfully he's losing all of his workers too, so don't worry, Joe, he's not going to get supply block. Oracle is trying to make its way out, but the pylon is going to be able to survive long enough for the Oracle to make it out. The only problem is I don't know if it has enough energy to clamp all of these units.
Yeah, it's going to try to do its best. Taking down these Reapers is the priority of this Oracle, and it will clean them up at least, but I'm just not sure if the production of our top team here can repel this all in.
Yeah, University of Chicago, this game was so important for them to make sure that they didn't bring it to a potential ace match later on, and it's not looking too good for them. Currently we're tied up 1-1, but very soon it seems like Spaceman and T-Fang are going to be able to bring it 2-1 in favor of RPI.
Yeah, 2v2 this can happen. It's such a powerful matchup to just go for all-ins because you have twice as much to hit with, and if your opponent doesn't respond like pretty much exactly correctly, then it feels like it can be twice as hard to hold. And now the final bits of Gvon's economy are just being absolutely ravaged by Spacemen here. And I don't know what moves are left for University of Chicago.
I really don't think that there are any right now, Joe. If I have to be brutally honest, Gvon has 83 resources, is going to slowly but losing his command center if he isn't careful, and he does eventually lift it up, but 0 workers to his name, and I don't think that Pancakes has as big of a Protoss force as he is going to need to carry his teammate through this game.
Well, mules are good.
They can be.
I mean, he does have 2 orbital command centers that could drop mules if they were to land again. I'm trying to look at ways they could come back. I mean, you know, there's resource dumping, but I don't think that's unlocked for another minute.
Something like that, but I think, honestly, one of the bigger things that they could do is if those oracles could move across the map and just get devastating amounts of damage done, maybe, but one of the oracles only has 23 energy on it. By the time it makes it to the other base, it's not even going to be able to activate the Pulsar Beam for more than a second or two. The second oracle may be able to get something done, but guess what? There's a Widow Mine in the mineral line. It's going to be so hard to make a whole lot happen here.
And they're actually going to start fighting these Marines right away here.
Oh, not for long.
All right, that's 1 Oracle down and 1 Dream shattered as Pancakes does pull back his second damaged Oracle.
Definitely a brutal pill to swallow, as now Gvon is at 11 supply of 38. This command center is definitely making sure he's not getting supply blocked anytime soon. But his teammate Pancake's also not faring that much better. He lost a lot of workers in the process as well. He's only mining gas with 1 worker right now because he realizes how important it is he's able to reestablish a natural again if he wants any chance in this game.
Yeah, I think we may have kind of entered into, you know, the stages of grief. I think it's like denial, bargaining, anger. I think we're kind of moving through those. We saw the bargaining with the floating the command centers around. And when you get hit like that, sometimes you need a minute to process and you say, you know what, I've still got these tools left at my disposal. I know I'm probably dead, but maybe we can try to make something happen. What's the worst that happens? I lose. I'm probably going to do that anyways already.
Yeah, fair enough. I was going to say, you know, sometimes, I'm not going to lie, I used to be a member of the CSL team for Purdue University, and we would sometimes just delay our deaths as long as possible so that our teammates would have time to wake up from whatever very sober and not drunken stupor, of course, because we were responsible college individuals, to make sure that they were able to show up on time. But the next players that are showing up for the Archon mode match are 2 players that have already played or are playing right now. Gvon and Tag, Tag played in the second 1v1, and Gvon is currently playing right now.
Well, maybe they're trying to feel out their opponents. Like, it's important to know what your opponent's going to do if they're twice the supply ahead of you.
I mean, they are playing versus the exact same people. Spaceman and T-Fang going to be repping RPI for both the 2v2 and the Archon mode match.
Indeed. Now, there's another push coming out here, and kind of putting the banter aside for a moment, this shouldn't really be holdable by University of Chicago here. We've got a lot of Marines with a combat shield and stim here. A lot of tanks backing that up, and some banelings to knock down this front wall.
Joe, I don't know. I read on the BattleNet forums that Photon Overcharge is a little bit too strong, so maybe with some Photon Overcharges they'll be able to hold over here. Oh, dang it, they have siege tanks. Well, let's come back to that one, Joe.
These tanks are going to siege up on the low ground here, and that's just going to kind of allow these guys to inch forward until they feel that they've cleared enough space for their powerful army to walk in and just try to DPS everything down. That medevac swoops in to try to drop on top and is like, nope.
You know, there is a disruptor coming out, and all jokes aside, one disruptor hit on a giant marine ball that isn't paying attention could legitimately give Gvon and Pancakes a bit of renewed life. The problem is I just don't know if they're going to be able to get that kind of miracle disruptor hit right now.
Well, here it comes. The disruptor is out. It's the final hope. All things lie on this disruptor. The pressure is enormous. It's going to creep up. It's going to get on top of everything and gets targeted down before the shot is able to go off here. The Manor Mules are dropped, and I think this is the end for real.
There it is. GG gets called by Pancakes and Gvon, and RPI is going to be going up 2-1 in this best of 5.
Yes, indeed. Congrats to RPI. They have now guaranteed that they're allowed to play things out until the ace match here. I think that puts them in a very strong position to potentially win this game and hopefully secure their spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that would mean actually quite a bit for them, being able to make it to that playoffs, and of course, be able to make it there in style, taking out an undefeated team. Not just undefeated in this group stage, undefeated across the entire season. They have not dropped a single series in the CSL this season, so that's probably the most ideal way you could probably qualify for the playoffs, besides just coming in first place in your group.
Yes, indeed. But anyways, guys, don't go anywhere. We will be right back, and while you're patiently waiting at the edge of your seats, why not hop onto the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store and check out Band Gaming. It's a terrific social app that helps you organize gaming clans, communities, or even something like a CSL team. So don't go anywhere, guys. We will be right back.
Ben, Sam, and Ken are on separate journeys to defeat the menacing Vile Dragon. But let's just say luck isn't on their side. If only there was a way for them to find each other and band together. Well, that's why there's Band. It's a mobile app that allows people to come together using common interests. With Band, you can find fellow gamers, chat, schedule gaming sessions, and conduct polls. Stage epic battles with friends while sharing videos and photos along the way. So try Band today. Band. Be together.
All of your wind has gone, and all of the paths you've drawn have sunk to the ocean sand where no one can see. You stand, don't let the dark embrace, cower the dreams you chase under the rust and blood. Don't let yourself give up.
and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to the CSL. I'm Joe Loguitis, joined here today by Fear Dragon, and we are preparing to head into our Archon match with RPI holding a 2-1 lead against their opponents. If University of Chicago wants to win, they're going to have to win the remainder of the maps here in this best-of-5 series.
Indeed, but without further ado, Joe, let's hop into the game and find out what's going to happen in this Archon mode match on Whirlwind.
Spawning here in the bottom left-hand corner, playing for RPI, it is going to be the Teal Terran Archon, T-Fang, and Spaceman.
And up in the top right-hand corner of the map, we have the yellow Archon playing as Terran. It's going to be Gvon and Tag, representing University of Chicago's hopes and dreams.
Gvon and Tag. So this is a rematch. No, it's not a rematch. Pancakes played in the last.
It's a
match
one-player tag-out swap-in. They had a substitute player
tagged out.
I would, in fact, say that he was tagged out because it was... Actually, no, he wasn't tagged out. He was tagged in because tags got brought in.
Right. That makes more sense.
Worth noting, second barracks coming down behind the mineral line of T-Fang and Spaceman. So looks like RPI wants to put on some of that aggression, and the reason why it's behind the mineral line is that it just makes it a little bit harder to scout. If there is that early Reaper that comes in, it's a little bit less likely it's just going to be dawdling around inside the natural expansion, and this is going to let them produce 2 Reapers at a time and eventually get up a command center or even a factory, whatever they would like to do. But they're going to try and really keep their opponents off guard and take out as many SCVs or early economic leads as soon as possible. This is a really old style of TBT.
Yeah, not necessarily this play, but the positioning of that barracks always makes me think of Bomber. I'm not sure if he did it a lot or if he just did it once really memorably, but that positioning of tucking that second barracks behind the mineral line just always makes me think of Bomber.
You know, the history lesson for StarCraft here, there was the original person who used to, quote-unquote, slightly proxy his barracks a little bit was Maka Prime, and it is actually technically known as the Maka Racks.
Huh. That is
StarCraft
a name
2 history
that
lesson.
predates my time.
This is like 2000, this might be 2010, 2011 era.
Yeah, that is not a name I've heard, but thank you for the history lesson. This is the Collegiate StarCraft League, so why not learn?
Yeah, well, I think that T-Fang and Spaceman are going to learn one thing. Group up your Reapers, and got to be careful about the timing there, because there are already 2 Reapers that came out for University of Chicago, and this is off of 1 barracks, both Reapers. Whirlwind is a very big map, and going all the way across the map gives your opponent plenty of time to get that second Reaper, so... Well, T-Fang and Spaceman, they are going to have 3 Reapers. They're going to try and catch their opponents off guard. They stutter step in. They should be able to get 1 Reaper.
Well,
is that going to be enough?
Yeah, it looks like this Reaper is going to continue to pull back here. T-Fang and Spaceman are pursuing with all of their hearts and jetpacks and chain pistols. But it does look like Gvon and Tagged will be able to escape with their own Reaper and potentially start setting up their defense with the Hellion and, of course, the Cyclone, which is kind of the typical counter to that mass Reaper play. Yeah,
this is, I think, one of the big reasons why this kind of play is just so uncommon now. You don't really see double barracks Reaper openings anymore because the Cyclone is such a strong unit. Even the Hellions coming out make it so difficult. Especially on a map like Whirlwind, I think that maybe they were hoping for horizontal or vertical spawns instead of cross spawns, so that they can make their way to their opponents a little bit faster. But you really are relying on that very, very thin timing where you have 2 Reapers or 3 Reapers and your opponent has 1 or 2.
Yeah, although that was some really cute micro. That's the kind of micro that we love to see in Archon mode, right? Where you're dancing your individual units around, you're nailing those sick, nasty Reaper grenades, and you're saving low HP Marines against Cyclone Hellion.
Yeah, it still does come with a bit of a concern, though, because T-Fang and Spaceman have so much later of a factory, but even later of a starport, considering they're still not even starting them up right now. They're getting up an engineering bay, which I mean, it would be fine if they were facing off against some kind of Banshee. But it's not a Banshee. It's a Raven that actually was produced. And that Raven harassment is actually a very, very strong form of harassment. We are going to be seeing just, I guess, a straight-up push-out with 1 Cyclone, 2 Ravens, and a Marine. Not the most ordinary push-out, but it does get scouted.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's going to be a way to correctly react to this. I'd imagine you want to kind of pull back to those defensive positions here. But here we go.
Double missile turret inside the natural expansion mineral line. I don't know what to think of that, because you're just going to drop down the auto turrets and run out of there anyways. Marauder's getting focus fire down by the Cyclone. The auto turrets deal out insane amounts of DPS. And now there's nothing really to contend with the Cyclone.
Yeah, and it's just going to run train on everything in here, starting to push damage out onto that tech lab. A tank is now going to get down. There's absolutely nothing to buffer for it.
Oh man, I thought that if that auto turret had gone down on next to the siege tank, I think they would have gotten it, but they tried to go for the tech lab, tried to be a little bit greedy and didn't see the tanks, so end up not having to back off, but still kind of a nice little bit of damage done. And even though it doesn't seem like a lot of economic damage was done, you have to remember the natural expansion wasn't mining for a little bit, and the entire army for T-Fang and Spaceman got reset, when that was pretty much their only real advantage going into this.
Yeah, that's going to be very unfortunate for them, as Jivan and Tagged have continued macroing back home without missing a beat, continuing to add on Marines, tanks, and Cyclones. This is the kind of army that makes me think that Jivan and Tagged might just wait for that +1 in stim and just go for another push with this kind of mid-game strike force.
Okay, well, we do have stim actually finished up much faster for T-Fang and Spaceman, so maybe they can make something happen with that, as well as the fact that I guess that they are currently finishing up combat shields way before Jivan and Tag will end up having combat shields. So there's still some hope. They also have a much faster +1 weapons upgrade. But I think this is going to be one of those situations where they want the game to go on longer and longer so they have time to macro up a big army.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, taking a defensive fight as well is always going to be advantageous. It's harder to push up a hill into fortified siege tanks, well, than to sit at the top of a hill with fortified siege tanks. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Jivan and Tagged back out, or maybe they can feign some aggression at the front, try to pull all that army out of position, and go for a bit of a drop in the main. The possibilities are endless when you have medevacs out.
Well, here we go. Cyclone gets obliterated very quickly. And remember that when you have Marines that have combat shields versus Marines without combat shield, it becomes a very one-sided fight very quickly. And even those combat shields actually help out quite a bit versus the siege tanks. T-Fang and Spaceman kind of darting forward with the medevac, seeing, okay, what exactly do you have? I think the big fear right now is those auto turrets. Auto turrets are actually going to make this a much harder engagement than they would like. And there they are.
And they take out 2 tanks with the assistance of that tank fire from the back of Jivan and Tagged here. The Teal Archon is trying their best to hold on, but those Ravens had so much energy, and that's going to allow more auto turrets to come down, taking out that tech lab, losing another medevac. This is starting to get really bad for a Teal Archon.
Yeah, the medevac doesn't even have that much energy left over right now for T-Fang and Spaceman, so every single one of these stims is actually pretty painful. I mean, you can think of it almost like they don't have combat shields on most of these Marines anymore, because they use stim.
Yes, indeed. And this is going to be at the full pull. All the SCVs are coming off the line. They're going to be able to get right on top of all of those medevacs here. It's going to push away yellow for the moment. And that's going to buy T-Fang and Spaceman some time, but it was a very costly hold.
Yeah, lost a lot of not only some of those workers and also delaying that third expansion compared to their opponents, but also, most importantly, completely reset the siege tank count, bought the University of Chicago team time to finish up their own upgrades, and even get out a +1 armor upgrade that's going to be actually finishing way before an armor upgrade ever started up for T-Fang and Spaceman.
Yeah, and now we can start to see the mineral difference in income here. If we take a look at that down on the bottom of the screen, Jivan and Tagged having double the mineral income of their opponent. Obviously, we now have Teal setting up that third base, so we should start to see the difference eventually level off here. But I believe they had that difference in income for about 90 seconds, and that's just going to make
actually,
a huge
if you hit
difference.
numpad 1, you will be able to see in the income graph just how crazy this income has been sliding in favor of University of Chicago.
That is a really cool feature. Thank you once again to Ryan
Ryan
Shooter. Okay. Anyways, he's got.
Speaking of shooter, we got some Marines shooting down that command center. It is not going to be able to get away. 10 workers also fall, and with it, a ton of the economy right now for T-Fang and Spaceman.
Yes, indeed. And Jivan and Tagged are going to be perfectly content to just pull back after that. Why wouldn't they? They sniped their opponent's command center. Their upgrades are now climbing ahead of their opponents. And I think it's safe to say that Jivan and Tagged are just ahead in pretty much every way in this mirror matchup.
Yeah, virtually every way. So the cool thing about TVT is that once you do start to get up an army size, even reasonably high, as long as you have some really good positioning, you have really good tank placement and good splitting on your Marines, you can take army engagements with a much lower supply. You just need to be able to get to that point where you have the resources for those kind of moves. And I don't know if this is the place to make your big hold.
Well, they do have the 4 Vikings, which can offer some kind of air superiority advantage, potentially, if they can find a way to deal with those Ravens. Having that 1 Widowmine at the front is kind of a nice idea, but the scan goes down and it gets eliminated here.
Yeah, there was also a drop in the 3rd expansion of Jivan and Tag, but it gets cleaned up without really doing a whole lot of damage. Auto turrets look like they're going to be thrown, or trying to be thrown down in top of those siege tanks, but nice PDD does save the Ravens. One of them going to be very low on health, but it's going to live to fight another day.
Yes, indeed. And these guys are currently doing that kind of slow dance that is TVT, where they're just playing footsies with each other, moving around, not quite ready to commit in. But I think that T-Fang and Spaceman are a lot more afraid right now than Jivan and Tagged.
Marines are going to stem up to that 3rd expansion location. The command center is going to land at the absolute worst time, but the siege tanks are going to get sniped off very quickly over here. T-Fang and Spaceman not getting the worst engagement in the world. I mean, this could have gone so much worse, but they are going to be able to clean up.
Yeah, but off the back of this, I think after losing that 3rd command center, the only thing they want to be doing right now is counterattacking, and I don't think the army they have on the ground is enough to really fuel any kind of serious counterattack.
Yeah, I feel like if this is the time where you lift off that main command center and float it over to that 3rd and try and just go with that. Even if you don't have 3 CC like your opponent does, or I should say soon to be 4 CC, you have something and you can, like you said, try and go for that counterattack, but you got to be so careful not to get caught out of position like this.
Yeah, and this is going to be absolutely devastating for our Teal Archon here. Oh, the entire fleet of Manor Mules comes down. GG is called by T-Fang and Spaceman. And Jivan and Tagged are going to take game number 4 here for University of Chicago.
And we are going to the ace match, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll see. Most likely, my guess would be that we would see a rematch of our game number 1, but I'd be lying if I said that wasn't a little bit more of a one-sided game. So we'll see exactly who University of Chicago can bring out to try and take this series back and keep their perfect stainless steel record. But I do also want to give the Band Together Award to, of course, the winners of that last game from University of Chicago. They did a great job considering, you know what, they were up against a very strong team that just took the 2v2 pretty, I would say, straightforwardly. And they were able to really do a nice job securing themselves a lead in that Archon mode game. So Band Gaming Award for me, Joe, goes to Tagged and Jivan.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you there. Terrific teamwork. And, of course, thank you to Band for supporting the CSL. Guys, if you want to check them out, it's available on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. If you're a CSL coordinator, you should definitely play with it. It can help you make sure your team is on time and ready to go. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with that ace match.
Ben, Sam, and Ken are on separate journeys to defeat the menacing Vile Dragon. But let's just say luck isn't on their side. If only there was a way for them to find each other and band together. Well, that's why there's Band. It's a mobile app that allows people to come together using common interests. With Band, you can find fellow gamers, chat, schedule gaming sessions, and conduct polls. Stage epic battles with friends while sharing videos and photos along the way. So try Band today. Band. Be together.
All of your wind has gone, and all of the paths you've drawn have sunk to the ocean sand where no one can see. You stand, don't let the dark embrace, cower the dreams you chase under the rust and blood. Don't let yourself give up. And all these steps that we take are leading us far away. And all these years are passing each day. Since then we are far away from where we were. We did what we could. We're light years away from where we stood. The road goes on far from it.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to the final map of the CSL regular season that will be broadcasted. Very exciting matchup between Jon Snow and OMG a Banana. A rematch from our previous maps, of course, on Daybreak. So, Ravi, why don't you take us away with the first player?
I would love to, Joe, because we're going to be starting down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map on top of the very, very yellow Protoss player representing University of Chicago. Give it up for OMG a Banana, trying to defend the perfect win record of University of Chicago.
And his opponent in the top right-hand corner, he's the King of the North, the Cheeseadelphia champion, Psystorm Gaming's Jon Snow, playing for RPI, trying to guarantee their spot in that playoffs.
Okay, so Joe, it goes without saying that Jon Snow won the very first game of this best of 5 in a pretty compelling fashion. OMG a Banana saying that he was feeling pretty tired, and I was actually almost half expecting a Forge first or something crazy to be coming out. I mean, we don't actually have a Nexus coming out just yet. Okay, sending the probe down. He's going to be going for the Nexus. I'm going to say I would really love to see him go a little bit crazy, get a little bit weird. The only thing is, I would say that for almost anybody except for Jon Snow, who I think feels comfortable in those kind of low drone, low econ, cheesy game situations.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And it's not just cheese, it's like weirdly timed aggression, like kind of the macro and attack row style of play. And I think you're right that Jon Snow is just a very adaptable, flexible, comfortable player, and trying to throw your weirdest moves at him isn't necessarily going to result in a better situation for you.
Joe, do you have Attack Row trademarked? Because I feel like that is an ingenious name for a play style where you are attacking constantly, but also still macroing up a lot behind it, which I feel like is the kind of style that OMG a Banana is going to have to play, where he is trying to macro up a big army, but trying to keep Jon Snow at home with harassment.
Yeah, I just came up with it on the spot. I'm that good. But
I'm impressed.
anyways, it looks like OMG Banana is going to be securing that natural nexus, getting that first stalker out to just help push away the overlords. One thing that No Regret has told me is that when an NA player makes a stalker, they're hiding something. So
That is so unbelievably true, Joe, and it's not even just true for GM players. I feel like it's also true for even Diamond League players, because I know that's the only reason I make a stalker in PvZ, to snipe off those overlords. But nothing actually been hidden or made just yet. The only big weird thing that's happening right now is the lack of a second gas geyser, Joe. And generally, that's going to lead into something hyper aggressive or a crazy quick third expansion.
yeah, OMG Banana actually going up to 3 stalkers here. So I wonder if these are just for like sniping overlords and maybe trying to make Jon Snow feel a bit uncomfortable here, or if he's got something else up his sleeve.
Oh man, that overlord gets away to the high ground just barely, and it's because those stalkers were actually attacking the destructible rocks for a few seconds. So Jon Snow now not only gets away with the overlord completely, he's also going to have consistent vision on the 3rd and 4th gas geyser. Seeing at the 4-minute mark that, wait a second, you still haven't invested into that? Jon Snow, he's not even going to have seen these gateways in the bottom right. He's going to know there is a crazy amount of aggression coming.
So I do have a question for you, Fear Dragon, because this is something that's kind of boggled my mind. As a Protoss player, why would you proxy 4 gateways?
Well, I guess it's protecting the pylon, technically. That's one kind of nice thing about it. I think there's actually a small little area where Zergans might be able to attack. But the big idea is that the overlords, if they decide to come back in later, if somehow you were able to deny scouting on, say, the gas geysers, maybe you could have hidden the fact that there were additional gateways coming down. Your opponent might think, again, might just have been a 3rd expansion coming down or something. So that is going to be a bit of a conundrum, though, because Jon Snow is still going to end up losing his 3rd, but it's okay, I think. It's not great to lose your 3rd here, but it's a possibility to lose it and still end up having a big hold.
Yeah, he is going to be moving up here, is OMG a Banana. The Zerglings are going to try to buffer for this attack and get the surround on those delicate stalkers. And so far, great job Zergling Micro, like you'd expect from Jon Snow. His roaches are now getting on top of this army. The Zealots need to close the distance, try to buffer the gap, but it looks to be a pretty decisive hold out of Jon Snow here.
Ooh. Even a couple of Zerglings swinging in from behind, catching some of these stalkers off guard. And like you were saying, yeah, it is going to be a pretty decisive hold. Now, the big problem is going to be that those 4 gateways are going to go down. It's kind of the unfortunate way that things go. Yeah, the 4 gateways is going to be a slightly more defended position. If your opponent gets over here, try and do some damage, maybe you can try and reinforce, and just a small little run by of Zerglings won't just clean up 1 gateway or 1 pylon and take out your ability to warp in, but you are very much all in because of it.
Yes, indeed. And now OMG Banana on the retreat against this army here. He might have time to get one more round of warp-ins off of these gateways to try to bolster up his defenses back at home. But he's actually too broke to even do that. And he's just going to be looking to make the hold of his life is OMG Banana.
Well, he's engaging against some of Jon Snow's units small bits at a time when they're a bit more segregated, so it's the best engagement you could ask for, but it's still not going to be that great. The Roaches have already taken out most of the Zealots, only the Stalkers left over, and 3 Ravagers in the mix with a 3rd expansion coming down for Jon Snow, more Zerglings flooding on out, and Jon Snow has a worker lead. Joe, I think that RPI may be going to the playoffs.
I think you could be right about that as they continue to power on in. The Mothership Core is going to have the ability to drop a Photon Overcharge here, which is maybe OMG's Banana's best and last hope of holding on. He's desperately warping things in. Right now, he's just trying to buy time for that Immortal. He thinks that's the tool that could potentially save him from a certain doom here as Jon Snow continues to power on through the front, dropping corrosive biles on everything, and even the probes being pulled off the line.
And at this point, we quite literally have 0 warp gates powered right now. Additional pylons trying to come down. Oh, actually, sorry, 1 gateway is powered, and I think Jon Snow is going to be okay with that because he's going after the Immortal. He's going for the jugular. And, wow, we are going to see not only RPI making it to that playoffs, but University of Chicago finally bleeding a little bit.
Yes, indeed, they are mortal, it would appear. I'm not 100% sure that RPI advances to the playoffs. Round robin groups can be a little bit tricky when it comes to like
That's true, yeah.
figuring out who needs to win and who needs to lose. But winning this match against the strongest team in the division is certainly going to bolster their chances significantly.
Yeah. Although, actually, you bring up a good point that it still does depend a little bit on how some of the other teams in the CSL do in this particular group. And it is also a little bit unfortunate, I think, for RPI that they did not win the 2v2, or sorry, the Archon mode match, or they didn't win the second 1v1, because if they did, it also bolsters their chances a little bit more, because it's just those extra little chances where you increase your map score, and if that becomes a tiebreaker situation, map score could be one of the determining factors.
Yes, indeed. Jon Snow feels this game is over. He's making 2 banner matches. OMG a Banana trying his best to hold on. He really doesn't want RPI to get to these playoffs. But that's going to be it. WoW is called. And
Indeed. Is he corrosive biling his own? He's corrosive biling his own Ravagers.
Why not, right? You got to free up supply for other stuff, for macro hatches on the opponent's map.
Yeah, he's even got a couple of spare drones that he can make more with.
Yeah, that's just, I mean, that's good tactics here. Was that a Nexus?
That was, in fact, a Nexus.
I think this is the final game of the CSL regular season, and these guys are just having a bit of fun. OMG a Banana down, of course, to 5 supply, and that's going to be the GG. RPI takes the win. Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations in order for RPI. Again, they will have a much better chance at making to the playoffs now, and we'll be waiting to see the results of the rest of the CSL matches to see if they did, in fact, manage to beat out the rest of the players in their group. But I think that is going to do it for us tonight. Joe, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to cast the CSL with you, and I hope to see more of you fellow viewers in the audience for the playoffs.
Yeah, guys, and I think probably the best way to make sure you know when the playoffs are going to be happening is go ahead and follow Collegiate SC2 on Twitter. I'm sure as soon as the bracket and the schedule and all of that information is available, it will be tweeted out there. I think there's a few final matches that have to wrap up before they can actually figure out what the bracket's going to look like. But congratulations once again to RPI for winning the final broadcasted match of the season. And we're going to be back with the playoffs. Oh, and of course, thank you to all of our sponsors who helped make this wonderful season of CSL possible. Twitch, the platform you're watching this on, is terrific. Band Gaming, they're a great social app and platform. You can get it on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. And, of course, of Seuss, who is back and offers top quality gaming gear and peripherals, laptops, monitors, all of that cool stuff. Check them out and be sure to tune in for the playoffs.
All of your wind has gone, and all of the paths you've drawn have sunk to the ocean sand.